Welcome back into another episode of George in the Jungle, presented as always by Remington Tavern. We come at you live from the Cincy Light Studios, but Remington Tavern can be found at 8892 Glendale Milford Road, 45140, where they have their daily happy hour from 3 to 7 p.m., $5 bourbon whiskey Wednesdays, bottle cap bonanza Thursdays from 7 to 9 p.m. You can check them out on Instagram at RemyTav Cincy. That's REMITAV Cincy with a Y. Or follow them on Facebook. Be sure while you're there to grab yourself an ice cold Cincy Light on tap because it's delicious. George,
Aaron,
we're back here for another. Good. We're back here for another week here, and I wanted to start off with what we don't normally start off with here because they just got. I don't know, maybe the biggest weekend series since 2000. It's been 25 years since the Cincinnati Bearcats baseball team has swept a ranked team, a nationally ranked team, as they sweep the Kansas Jayhawks in 3, and back was against the wall. They were first 4 out, I believe. Some had next 4 out, I guess. And now they've put themselves firmly in the conversation of an at-large bid. But the Cincinnati Bearcats, under Jordan Bishel, who was with us last night on the BBP, if you haven't checked out that interview, be sure to check that out. It was amazing. 51 minutes of Jordan Bishel is not nearly enough. I love talking to that.
Yeah, he's funny. Good dude.
But did you catch any of those games, George?
Yeah, a little bit. And, I mean, yeah, talk about coming through at a time where you had to and how much different you feel, than, say, a week and a half ago about this team and their chances. And they did what they had to do, and they had to do it. Yeah, I was just about done a week and a half ago, and then they wake up and get a couple the weekend before and then get the sweep. And now – well, they were winning tonight, so and that's going to make 7 of their last 8 wins. But that's sweet over at out of Kansas, and the series Carrington Cross had in the game on Saturday, which was probably the best ever by a UC hitter. I can't imagine, and I didn't see, and I read some stuff, but I can't imagine they've ever had a guy with 10 RBI in one game.
10 RBI tied the record. 10 RBIs tied the record. 10 RBIs tied the record, I believe. Maybe it was. I know 3 home runs. Maybe it's 3 home runs that tied the record. 10 RBI broke the record, and 14 total bases broke the record. The school record.
That is an insane game, and what a player he is, a hitter he is, out of Brownsburg, Indiana, where that baseball program has been something else over the past quarter century. And, Tucker Barnhart, Drew Storen, Lance Lynn, those guys came out of there. And now you have this kid doing this and just an incredible feat to have. What did I wrote down, like his series, which unfortunately, the one game definitely, but he was 2 for 5 in the other 2 games. So it's not like, it's, and I think he had an RBI in one of the games. So, pretty good little series. So you would be 9 for 17 with 11 RBI in 3 games. That's getting it done in a critical situation, and they really, really needed it this past weekend, and they got it out of him. And kudos to everybody else. He had plenty of help. That one game they scored a crap ton of runs on Saturday. So but
you had to. You were in extras.
Mm-hmm.
It took them 10 to get there. It was 14-14 going into extras, and Cincinnati gets it 18-14.
Yeah,
and like Coach said last night, all of his home runs on Saturday came in situations where you needed it. It wasn't just tacking on runs in a blowout game. It was you needed these runs to stay in the game.
Well, I think the kid might have a future. He may
I'd
have a
love to
future,
see him,
but
love to see him
the
as
bottom line,
Big 12 Player of the Year. We'll see if he ends up being Big 12 Player of the Year. He's certainly building a very large case there. At the very least, first team all Big 12. So it should be fun to see what kind of accolades he ends up with when all said and done.
yeah, and they put themselves firmly back in the picture of possibly, getting in the postseason. And I think if they finish just fairly strong, they're going to do it. If they don't give up a whole lot of ground, and they've got where this weekend they're on the road, and then they're back home they're at TCU, and then back home against Kansas State to close it out.
I guess if you have nothing going on and you can get yourself down to UC, not this weekend, but you get Mother's Day weekend off, but next weekend.
I hope to get over there. I really do. Maybe get over there for a couple of games.
There you go. They're playing out of their minds, and like it's crazy because this isn't the first time that it's now his second season here, but at the end of the season last year, he surged as well. They were out of the picture, and then all of a sudden they start putting themselves back in the picture again at the end of the season last year. It's becoming an annual tradition, unlike any other.
Well, it's a tradition I like. I like when they're involved and potential for the postseason and anything. And given, to me, kind of a surprise this year, really. I mean, I was hoping for the best, obviously, but, it was a tough climb jumping into that Big 12 and given where they were at and competing with those programs. But right now they're fitting right in.
Well, I wish that team nothing but the best. We'll see what happens tonight at Oral Roberts in Tulsa, I believe.
They were up 8-2, something like that. The last I saw.
I hadn't seen anything since 5-0. So
that's a pretty good win. That'd be a pretty good win. I mean, here Oral has a winning record. They've beaten Oklahoma and Oklahoma State, I believe. So, and that's a historically good program. I mean, they've had really good baseball and alma mater of Jose Trevino with the Reds.
Speaking of the Reds, that's the next topic I wanted to get into. Last week, we didn't have enough good things to say about these Cincinnati Reds. They had been winning games they needed to win. They were doing the things they were supposed to do, and they looked like they were having a lot of fun doing it. Now we sit here a week later, kind of wondering, I'm wondering what the hell's going on with this team. They've been struggling to hit the ball. You feel terrible for a kid who just got the call up, and Tyler Callahan, who destroys his arm, breaking both bones.
Oh, God, that was awful.
He's going to be out of all baseball activity for 6 to 8 weeks. He's looking at, because this baseball season is so ridiculously long, he could be potentially looking at an end of the season return. We'll see. But the Cincinnati Reds are so strange. In their last 10, they are 5-5. Since you and I last spoke, George, they lost the doubleheader in very terrible fashion because they got rained out. They got rained out the last time that you and I talked. But they lost 6-0 to the Cardinals, 9-1 to the Cardinals, and then they took one back from the Cardinals 9-1 on Thursday to split that series 2-2. Then you play the Nationals, who have not been having a great season, and you drop 2 of 3 to the Nationals. You lose to the Braves last night 4-0, gathering a grand total of 1 hit in that game. Yuck.
They're playing teams they should be able to beat, too, if you're going to be a playoff team. The Cardinals have been struggling. The Nationals, the Braves have been struggling. And, they're 3-5 in their last 8 against those 3 squads. And, you have a couple more games in Atlanta. They're playing tonight. Last I saw was scoreless. You move on to
So
Houston, who hasn't been playing its best. Then you got the White Sox. They should be able to make up some ground here, but instead they're going the wrong direction. And I wonder, you look at the outfield production, and the last couple of nights it's been horrible. But should it and does it matter that much that one guy comes out of the lineup and then your lineup just falls apart like it did when Austin Hayes seems to have come out of the lineup, and then you're having to see more of Dunn. You're having to see, you had Callahan out there last night. You got Hurtubise coming up today to take Callahan's place. I'm sorry, but it just doesn't work when you've got a Hurtubise and a Dunn or a Dunn and a Fraley in the starting lineup in that outfield. You got to get production out of these guys at the plate, and they're not getting it there. And they've got, especially when you have, Matt McLean still struggling. Marte's out of the lineup tonight because he had a side issue at the last minute. Hopefully that's not an oblique, because we know how long that lasts. So all of a sudden, with the Austin Hayes hamstring and pray to the baseball gods for the Reds that he's back on Friday. That's what they're thinking. That's what he's thinking. He worked out before the game today and felt good and thinks that he's going to be okay by Friday. But it shouldn't make that big of a difference. But for some reason in this lineup, it has, with him out. And it seems like everything else, and that's a little bit of an oversimplification, but if you look back at what they're getting out of this outfield and what you hope to get out of your outfield offensively, they're not getting it.
Well, the crazy thing is, to me, that you bring up Jacob Hurtubise, and granted he was on the opening day roster and all of that, fine, whatever. But Rhys Hines tonight hits his third home run in as many games. Why wouldn't you bring up the hot hand instead of Jacob Hurtubise, who is just a guy to me? Jacob Hurtubise has done nothing to warrant being up at this level.
I don't know the answer to that, and we were wondering the same thing, guys I was texting with, and it's like, so the Reds got a glimpse of Rhys Hines when he gets hot, because he did it at the major league level up here. And if he's heating up down there and you need an outfielder, I don't know. I don't have the answer. But I think that was a mistake. I think they got to be smarter than that. They may know something I don't know. I hope the hell they do, but I don't know what it would be. All I can judge it by is what you see the dude doing on the field and what his numbers are. And his numbers are pretty darn good right now. And, we've seen not a huge sample, but I've probably seen enough of Dunn and Hurtubise to know, okay, you probably know what you're going to get out of them. I still don't know completely about Rhys Hines. I think he's probably a very streaky guy, but ride the hot streak. If you think, Hayes might be back Friday, it's not like you got to live or die with him this year. You bring him up for a couple of games.
And I think that's why you probably don't make the move with Will Benson, because I don't know how many options he has left that you can continue to bounce him back and forth. But Rhys Hines, to my knowledge, has only been up last year.
Right.
That's it.
Right. Yeah. I can't figure that one out either. That was a little surprising when I saw that was who was coming up. And then, yes, Hines has to rub salt in the wounds by hitting another home run tonight. And it's like, that would have come in handy in Atlanta. Not saying he would
you'd be winning right now, George. You'd be winning.
Yeah, you're right. That's all it takes is one run. So, and thank God for Espinal too, has soaked up some innings in the outfield, and at least he's been productive at the plate out there. Obviously, that's not his natural spot, and you don't want him to be an everyday outfielder in the major leagues unless, he picks it up a little bit out there. But certainly at the plate, that guy has been you kind of got to find places for him, because he has been fairly productive and very consistent at it, more consistent than just about anyone on this team, to be honest. And so you got to find spots for him. And these other guys, I mean, those are guys that just need to come off the bench in case of emergency, in my opinion. And unfortunately, they're having to play too much time right now.
Well, you found a place for Austin Wins tonight as he starts at first base. He has gone 2 of 3. He's batting .417. Why he's all the way down, buried in the lineup in the 7 hole, when you have McLean, who probably should be batting somewhere around there. That's kind of the next conversation I wanted to get to, I guess.
Yeah, I've got him written down on my list.
Matt McLean. He is a second-year player. Well, yeah, he was a rookie.
Third year, but he missed all of last year.
Third year,
yeah, he was up in 23.
So he's playing catch up because he was out all season last year. Batting .167. He's not, in my opinion, a proven player in this league. He is very young, and why we're insistent that he needs to be batting in the top 2 in this lineup every day is beyond me, especially when a guy is hitting .167 and is struggling. He is the driver of the struggle bus currently, George. And
unfortunately, he is. And I thought he was going to come around. I thought he was running into some hard outs, some tough outs. But when you look at the body now, it's over 100 at bats. Somewhere 117 plate appearances going into tonight. And I think a whopping 5 extra base hits, like 4 homers and 1 double. 1 double for Matt McLean. That tells me, something's not right.
Yeah,
right. And he hits a lot of line drives and can hit gappers. And that's very when I was looking at his numbers earlier, and it's like, holy crap, that jumped off the page. And I'll tell you this, I still think it's going to be okay for him.
I do think too.
Too good. And I will tell you this, we got a couple of reserve spots in my fantasy league. Somebody dropped him this week. I'm jumping on his butt next week and picking him up. And I'm stashing him because I think he's still going to come around. I do. And for a middle infielder that can hit the way he does, and he steals and he does a lot of good things, I think he'll get – I don't know when, though. It is very concerning. I mean, I can't bust a guy for dropping him because I would be very concerned, too, when you see those numbers and it's over 100 at bats now, and there's not – a lot of production there at all. And I think he'll get it. Here's my fear is that, obviously he wasn't rushed back, but whatever this shoulder thing is still somewhat of an issue. It's still limiting something. And that's my fear. And I don't know if it's not, you would think by now it would be all the way healed, but there's just something not right. Something's not as strong as it was. Something's not right with him. And hopefully they all figure it out and can come together and we'll start seeing some improvements. But I just keep waiting and thinking he's going to bust out any moment now because he seems so naturally gifted, but it hasn't happened. So I don't know what you do there because you don't want to start sowing those seeds of doubt, but at the same time, you don't want to be giving up ball games that you should be winning because, you've already got the same problem with half your, 2/3 of your outfield. And it's not like Friedel's been ripping the cover off the ball either.
I think the answer is pretty simple, and I think that everyone's overthinking it right now. And if you're going to continue to run him out there in the lineup every day, then just drop him in the lineup. It's not a big deal. I wonder how much pressure is there at the 2 hole compared to dropping him down, 6, 7. You don't have to put him in the 8 or 9 hole, but to take a guy out of the top of the order and to drop him somewhere into the middle, late middle,
right?
I think it's okay to do. It shouldn't if that's going to wreck his confidence. Then you've got a guy that's not who I believe Matt McLean is.
Right. No, and I'm with you with that. And I don't see any problem with moving him down until he shows the signs of coming out of it and taking some of the heat off. And that's what that's kind of surprising that hasn't happened yet. And maybe that's something we will see at the end of this week if Hayes does come back.
Well, did want to talk about Chase Petty's debut. It was not very good. He, of course, does come up and gets the start against St. Louis last week in the second half of the doubleheader. He goes 2 1/3, gave up 7 hits, 9 runs, all of them earned, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts, 2 home runs, 69 pitches. Rough day at the ballpark for Chase Petty's first outing as a Cincinnati Red.
Yeah, that was very disappointing, and I'm sure nobody's more disappointed than him, unless it's Terry Francona. But
he seems way behind. He was all the way behind him in the post game.
Oh yeah, another thing about that whole deal. That was the day of the doubleheader, the
Correct.
day night doubleheader. Honest to God, I guess they didn't want the kids sitting around thinking about it all day. But when they get to that third inning and they got to yank him and you're burning your bullpen on a day that you can't burn your bullpen because you have another game later. I mean, does it matter which way it goes? But it kind of does. And I'm thinking I probably would have started him later. I'm sure they just didn't want him sitting around thinking about his first major league game all day. But at the same time,
well, he started game 2. He started game 2.
He started. Okay.
No.
I thought he started the first one. Okay. Then I'm Jesus Christ, I can't remember anything anymore. Yes.
No, who started game 1? It was Singer. Singer started game 1.
That was the afternoon game?
Yeah, and he
well then strike everything I just said, but I still maybe they should have started him in the early game. Then he wouldn't have been sitting around thinking about it all day.
Yeah. Brady Singer goes 6 and 1 earned run in a game they lost 6-0. I don't know. It was his debut.
Just you're going to get those when guys come up and they roll out there, and it's you're a lot of guys have had that kind of an outing when they start their major league career on the mound like that. And there's just a million things going through their mind. I don't want to make a whole lot of excuses, but you can't. There's no cashing in and giving up. It's just hopefully you had the learning experience and moves on from there.
Doubleheaders are tough too. You're not running necessarily your normal starting lineups out there for both games.
Right.
A lot of times you're cutting corners in each game just to make sure that you get through both games. So it is what it is. I'm not putting any drop stock in Chase Petty or anything like that after that debut. But
no, I was looking at some stuff on him this morning. And I wish he was just trending a little stronger on some of these other numbers. I think, he'll still be help, but essentially he's trending more to a back end of the rotation type of guy. But they do have some, and Louder, you would say, would probably be, to me, a middle to front. Obviously, Burns, they're looking at him as an absolute stud, the way his professional career has taken off. And then, you still have Hunter Green, Lodolo, Abbott, who's pitching very well tonight. So they're okay there. They just got to get these guys, I don't want to wait too long, but this pitching staff in the coming years is going to be really, really good, I think. And, Graham Ashcraft is taken to that close or that goal. Now, you knew he was going to have a bump. And when was that? Sunday? He gave up maybe 3 runs or something. You knew he was going to have a bump because he had just been unconscious. And I think it was against the Nationals Sunday. He had
you're right.
But you knew that's going to happen to every guy. But man, oh man, as he filled a vital role for this ball club to come in and it's it's not even long relief. It's just when he's coming in close games and high pressure situations where they need a couple of good innings, to hang in games, and he's been giving it to them. And I'm really impressed with that, because it had been easy for him to be, God, I'm the odd man out. All this stuff's happened to me. And no,
he is a junkyard. He's a junkyard dog. If there was ever a junkyard dog,
yes, he is.
Even giving up 3 earned runs in the 2/3 innings pitched on Sunday, he still sits with a 2.2 ERA. George, he's going to be all right.
Oh yeah, no, I just like how he sees this role, and he could be a valuable piece going forward too, because a guy like that can come in and give you a couple strong innings like that in close games is huge.
Rhett Lauder, by the way, is pitching tonight in rehab in the Arizona Complex League. Guess who he's pitching against, George?
Oh my God, I have no idea.
Clayton Kershaw.
Really?
Yeah.
What the heck is that all about?
Rhett Lauder against Clayton Kershaw in the Arizona Complex League.
That's crazy.
It is. It is. But
what a way to get started for him on his road back. Hopefully he does well. I'd like to see him back here this summer. I like the kid. I thought, obviously he looked really good last year at the end of the season with the Reds. And yeah, I think he can help. And it's funny, you look at, I want to say they have like 4 or 5 guys. The Reds have a fairly a top half minor league system, but most of it's due to this pitching they have stashed in there, Petty and Burns and Lauder. And then we saw Luis May come up, which is, when you talk about an enigma. And when they described him as the right-handed Aroldis Chapman, it's kind of true. Like, I mean, he throws a really
so much
ball. Yeah, it's crazy. And, when he's on, he's almost unhittable. But I guess he loses it every now and then. And I hope they can harness that, because he's electric. He really is. And it was exciting to see him up here and pitching. I'd heard about him. I hadn't seen him pitch. And it's fun to watch him come in and do his thing. I hope he can continue to do it. I mean, he could be the answer if he can, because he's got that kind of stuff. But my God, what happened to Alexis Diaz? Like, there is nothing that guy can do right.
There's nothing
left
in the tank.
Outside of some kind of injury or lingering issue that we don't know about, I don't understand how someone can have that kind of stuff and be that good, and he just fell off a table.
Yeah, I don't know if it's something similar to getting the yips in golf or what it may be with him. But everything is off there. We were talking about the incoming pitching that they have loaded down in the minors. Andrew Abbott must have got that memo today, because he goes 5 innings with no earned runs, dropping his ERA to 2.25 on the season. And by the way, I did want to stat correct myself. Graham Ashcraft pitched an inning tonight and has dropped that down to 2.08 with no earned run.
Well, now that is current information there.
Yeah.
That is some current info. So how many did Abbott strike out tonight? Because he was on a decent roll there.
8 and 5.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a hell of a line right there. And I'm glad to see him bounce back.
For sure.
He didn't throw his best the other night. When was that? Friday night? No, it couldn't have been Friday. Anyway, his last time out, it was not his best. And everyone's going to have that. I mean, Hunter Green kind of went through that one game when he gave up those home runs, but God bless Hunter, solo shots. And then I think he gave up another run, but he has been so automatic. And I really hope I get to see him pitch in person next week. I think I will. I'm hoping he's trending to be the starter Tuesday night. I will be fired up about that, which means I may not be here.
Look, that works out great because Chad and I are doing an 11-hour marathon for 513 day. So if we have to take a week off next week, that's the perfect time to do it.
All right, I'll be at GABP
All
drinking
right.
$12 beers.
Ugh. I don't know if do you have any more on the Reds you wanted to get to?
No, we talked about Kling.
Tyler Stevenson's back, but
yeah, and I'm glad to see that. I don't know what you do with 3 catchers, but when you have the outfield issues, they have. It's going to be interesting when it comes time. How long do you carry these 3 catchers? Obviously, Stevenson and wins tonight at first base. I mean, they can mix some guys around. Quite honestly, I would keep them over that. I mean, you cheat the outfield, in my opinion, because
no one's giving you anything anyway.
Right. Exactly. So that may solve the problem for them. I mean, I remember it was a couple of years ago when they had those 3 catchers, or maybe even last year, and it's like it was driving me insane because they really, the only one that could do anything else was Stevenson, and it was just so constrictive. But it doesn't feel like that with these guys.
It was last year. It was Stevenson, Malley, and Wins.
Yeah, Luke hit a home run for. I didn't know he just came up with the Royals and hit a home run the other day, and so did Jonathan India on Sunday.
Oh, they're gone.
They are gone.
I don't have anything else there. I did want to get to probably the biggest news of the day for the Cincinnati Bengals, actually. And Geno Stone takes a pay cut, George. He drops his salary down. It's very strange to me when you have guys who, this is now the second player from last year's offseason crew to come in and sign a contract, renegotiate their deal essentially with Geno Stone, and a couple weeks ago we had Zach Moss do the same thing. You wonder what the Bengals are trying to clear the cap space for.
Well, Trey Hendrickson money would be one.
That would be one.
You would hope that would be 1A. But they're definitely trying to do something.
Yeah.
And it does speak well that they're able to be proactive here, and these players are on board with it. And, obviously both of these guys probably knew that they could be just cut loose. And, I'm glad they took this route. And, the Bengals, we'll see what they do. They have those voluntary workouts going on now, and nobody expected Hendrickson to show up, and I guess he didn't show up.
Nope.
I don't know how this is going to play out. I don't like it. None of us do. I'm sure he probably doesn't either. But I don't know how this is going to end there, and I really don't. I don't have a good feel for how it's going to end up.
Well, players that missed today in OTAs, this coming from Jay Morrison. Charlie Jones was present, but not working out. Cole Burgess was on the rehab field. Dax Hill was on the rehab field. Zach Moss was out for his neck. Jermaine Pratt was out because of his trade request. Eric All was out because of his destroyed knee. And Trey Hendrickson was out for his contract.
And they said, I saw somewhere that BJ Hill was in a boot, but he was there. I don't like big guys wearing medical boots. I hope it's nothing, and it's May. So
it is May.
Yeah, it's May. And hopefully it's nothing. But to me, that's another guy, given the defense built the way it is right now. That's another guy you can ill afford to lose.
I agree. Did want to talk about, I guess if you're
Burrow wasn't there, was he?
No, Met Gala Joe was not there. He was, of course, at the Met Gala last night.
What was that all about? I mean, that's like that big thing in New York, right?
Yes. Look, I was telling Chad this before we started recording this show. If Joe Burrow participated in some kind of ritual last night where he had to sell his soul to the devil himself, and it helps the Cincinnati Bengals get a Super Bowl win, I had nothing to do with any of that. I am unbeknownst to any of that, and that's on him. I will celebrate it all the same.
It sounds like you know something being out there around Athens with the locals out there where Joe Burrow grew up, that maybe there is some kind of
I wouldn't say any
underlying
all
thing
that.
going on here. Oh,
No,
okay.
no, it's Hollyweird. It's whatever happens out in in
Oh my God.
LA or in New York with all the stars and what have you at these types of things. The Met Gala is a weird event in and of itself
Yes.
where
I
they
don't
have
get
these
it.
themes. They lock everything up. You can't go in with cameras once the event actually
Ugh.
starts. You only do that out. I don't know what happens there. I don't want to know what happens there. I'll leave that to the people who do.
No, I can do without all that. You know how I am with like any of that pop culture, Holly. I don't know anything about it. I don't care about it. Just give me a beer and a cigar and a nice easy. I don't need that. And look, I dressed up every day for work, and I enjoyed it. I do. I like wearing a coat and tie and all that stuff. But just to go to see and be seen, and that, come on. I'd rather sit home and play a little PlayStation or something.
I'm with you. But yeah, Joe wasn't there either, which is what it is. I don't
don't
like.
see that as a big deal. It's just like, I mean,
I
I'm
get
sure
it,
all the
right?
guys understand, and it's obviously it must mean something to him to go to the Met Gala or Gala. Is it a gala or a gala?
I don't call it what you will.
Oh,
Potato. In any
right.
case,
But anyway, it must mean something to him, but it means absolutely jack shit to me.
Jamar and T. Higgins, though, both there, both participating. No issues there. Gotta love that. You also had.
Be there. How much are they getting paid?
Well, I'm just.
I know it's voluntary. I know.
It's nice to not have any underlying issues there.
Right. I'm half making a joke after they made all this money. But God bless them. They have earned that, and they have been really, they've handled all this very well. If you start from the very beginning, T could have been whining, Jamar could have been whining, and yes, maybe Jamar sat out camp last year and all that. But when the rubber hit the road, those guys responded and they were there, and I do respect the way they handled that whole process.
You also had the Bengals extending Dax Hill, they exercised his 5th-year option. Your immediate thoughts on Dax Hill being back in the fold?
I would have done that. I think that was the right move with what he showed at corner last year, because honestly, before that stretch at corner, it was kind of probably like this. What do you do? And then he kind of seemed to fit back in at corner and do a really nice job. And those guys don't grow on trees at all. And, you're getting him at a good rate. Let's be honest. They are. So I'm all for it. I mean, to me, that was a no brainer. So I like that too. And to me, he seems like another dude you want to have in that locker room. That's a good team first kind of guy, because he's done everything they've asked him since they drafted him. I mean, he hasn't been some first round prima donna.
And you wonder, I guess, with some of the new coaching staff here and the new defensive scheme in general, if he's going to slide back into that cornerback role, or if they mess around with him at safety again.
Well, yeah, I think he'll stay in that corner role, but who knows? And the Bengals have every right and every reason, and they should explore every combination and avenue to make sure they get this defense back on track a little bit, because last year was not good defensively. they've got to get that fixed. And if they get, they don't even have to be a top 10 defense, but if they can just get respectable, that's all you need with this offense, right? As long as this line thing works, that's all they'll need.
Well, we'll see. They still have not gone out and signed Dalton Risner as I have wanted them to do, just to make it a full competition there at guard. So we'll see.
Maybe
we'll
that's
see
where the money's going to go.
Maybe. I doubt it. I doubt it. But I say go and pay Trey. Just get the damn thing done.
I was glad to see they said that Volson was doing a little extra work with the new line coach and all that, and it seems like there's he's not backing down. He's buying in and knowing I got to get my stuff together or else, because he's got a pretty good right, and that's what it should be. And he's one of those he'll dig down. He's a grinder. We'll see how he responds, but I like the fact that they have the other option that they drafted out of Georgia with Fairchild. I think that kid's going to be good too. And who knows who's we always talk about the Lucas Patrick. Is that right? That they signed for guard too? The veteran?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah. So they got 3, and they got to find 2 starters.
Yeah, got to figure it out. It is Lucas Patrick, can confirm. The next topic I wanted to get to, the Cincinnati Bearcats football team. They were ranked by USA Today. They were ranking all 136 Division I football programs. Cincinnati slots in at 103 for this season, last in the Big 12. I understand that a lot of people who do these types of things don't do a deep dive when you're trying to rank 136 teams. You're probably not doing a deep dive on every single team. I get that. A lot of it is, what have you done for me lately? Scott Satterfield, I don't think, is a highly respected coach in general in college football. Cincinnati as a program, since Luke Fickell left, has not been a highly respected program. And even after the college football playoff run, it fell off a little bit, I think it's safe to say. But what do you think? 103? 103, George?
That seems insane to me, right? Like, how many MAC teams do they have above Cincinnati?
Well, you're bringing back a quarterback who at least knows the system. You can say what you want. You can say what you want about Brendan Sorsby. Right now, I'm not high on him because I don't know when the last time was that I saw him throw a completion more than 30 yards. It feels like that didn't happen after week 6, 7, something like that. But you're bringing back a guy who's projected by Todd McShay this past week in Joe Royer as a first-round draft pick, even if it's the 32nd pick in the draft. You bring in a guy like Joe Cotton, who every program, it seems, that was in all of college football wanted, and here he is slotting in on your offensive line. You brought back a lot of pieces of that offensive line in general. You've upgraded by all counts. You've upgraded your receiver room, your defense, and I guess I just don't understand 103.
No, I don't get it either. I think that's I got to go look this up because I haven't looked at it yet. And if I remember right, are they the one that does the countdown from the worst up to the top, or did they release it all at once? One of them used to put out a team every day or a couple teams a day, and I just that seems extreme to me, because you start looking at all those Division I teams, and there's no way. So we're talking what? There's 27 teams or whatever worse than Cincinnati. Come on.
That's I don't know. Again, you've got Corleone coming back, and he's
Because
a
help
guy
me if
project.
I'm thinking right here. You're talking about you got all the MAC in there. You got Conference USA. You got the American, right?
Yeah,
The Mountain West,
Sun Belt,
Sun Belt. Yeah,
Independence.
yeah, the Independents. So yeah, I and that includes. Although I'm not saying Connecticut's better than Cincinnati, but Connecticut surprised me a little bit last year that they even had a freaking pulse. Having to scrabble together what they've been doing.
Yeah, I
But
don't
I think
know.
Cincinnati would be better than Connecticut. I just wonder where they have all this.
I don't know. Just Chad told me that they were 103rd, and I could not even wrap my mind around. Even when you talk about Cincinnati being the worst ranked team in the Big 12, that that
Look at something here. I mean, this is. I'm trying to look this up. Oh my
Darren,
God.
Darren in the chat here says those guys in the locker room didn't come back thinking they were a last place team. Everyone from players, coaching staff, recruiting departments better work with the chip on their shoulder. I agree. I don't think that you bring back as many.
103rd. What the hell? So they've got them going 5-7. Yeah, this is. Oh, come on! This is stupid. They've got 1-3-8, and Wyoming is 88. No, this thing's bogus. This is so bad. I mean, you don't even have to look very hard to poke holes in this stupid thing. They got Florida. This can't be right. No, there's something wrong. These people were smoking something serious before they put this list out. Who is this guy? Paul Meyerberg. Paul Meyerberg, college sports reporter since 2012. Well, Paul, pass me what you're smoking, buddy, because that's a bad list.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I'm going to have to look into that more when I get a chance because I do need some comic relief. That's ridiculous.
I think that's
why you do these things and you do these lists. And you're right. You can't do a total deep dive. But if you're not going to do it right, then why the hell do it? Why the hell publish that thing? Because some guy is telling him we got to have this by this deadline or you're fired. So he just cobbles a list together and there it is. I know this shit works, and that's how it works.
Well, Vegas has Cincinnati for whatever it's worth. Vegas has Cincinnati at 6.5. So I think that the schedule is incredibly favorable for the Bearcats. That schedule was released. The finalized schedule was released this week.
Does Vegas have a line out on that first game yet? I got to figure out what I want to do about that.
Against Nebraska? I don't know. I'm probably going to mess around and see if I can't make it out there.
I know. I might try to do it too. It was a no-brainer at Indy.
Yeah. Well, I didn't make it to that one. Was that during COVID? No.
Well, no, they were going to play this game originally at Indy, though. The Nebraska game, remember?
Yeah.
Indy to Kansas City, then we figured it would probably be on the Pacific Coast by, a couple more months because they kept moving it west.
I thought you were talking about the game at Indiana.
Oh, no, I got kind of screwed out of that one.
Yeah, the schedule, though, Nebraska on August 28th at Arrowhead, followed by Bowling Green on September 6th, Northwestern State on September 13th, both of those at home. Then you got the bye week on the 20th, September 27th at Kansas. Then you're at home against Iowa State on October 4th and at home against UCF on October 11th, at Oklahoma State on October 18th, at home against Baylor October 25th, at Utah November 1st, Then you got another bye, and then you are at home against Arizona November 15th and at home against BYU November 22nd before you travel to TCU on November 29th. So the only travel games are the home or the opener against Nebraska, then at Kansas, at Oklahoma State, at Utah, and at TCU. I still think it's a very favorable schedule.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I would totally agree. It's interesting too, and I don't know what their schedule formula is, and I know they have one, I guess. But Baylor was here last year, right? And
yeah.
And then there was another game you mentioned there that was on the road that they played on the road. Oklahoma State was a road game last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, that game was miserable too. Remember that second half?
And you're at Oklahoma State again next year.
Right. And if I remember, that may have been a homecoming game too at Oklahoma State, because I remember there was because I would like to go there and watch a game. And I've never been to Stillwater. I don't know that anyone really wants to go there, but I would. I also want to go to Lubbock and see Texas Tech. But tickets and everything was crazy because I think it was a homecoming weekend. And hotels filled up early. I remember, because I started to look into that. And then, Negative Phil had the whole drop on the thing and said, this ain't going to work. Because he's
with it being October 18th, you might run into homecoming again.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. I hope not. I would love to go. I like going to those road games. And that's, college road games are usually pretty fun. I heard the one in Indiana wasn't, but usually the fans are, because I heard the fans
they ran out of everything. They ran out of water.
Right. I heard the fans were jerks, which surprises me for Indiana people. I like Indiana. But yeah, usually you go to a college road game as opposed to like going to an Eagles game or a Ravens game, a Steelers game. You show up in Bengal gear or whatever. Oh my God, you're taking your life in your hands. But college is much more fan friendly. For the visiting, you kind of say, hey, I hope you're having a good time and like our stadium. That's not how it is in pro football. Go ask people out there with the Chargers and the Raiders. Jesus. And throw in the Niners in that kettle.
It is the top of the ninth, by the way. The Reds are up 1-0. Ellie scored. Wasn't a home run, but he did score. Reds are up 1-0 in the top of the ninth.
The Bearcats are up 9-2. I can't tell if they're going to the top of the ninth or the bottom. Oh, maybe it's over. I think it's over.
Still batting in the top of the ninth.
Is it?
Runners on the corners, no outs, top of the ninth, 9-2.
Yeah, this line score has the ninth inning filled in. I hope it's right because it's got a 0 for Oral Roberts.
Darren also added in the chat, Nebraska game feels like Coach Luke Fickle's UCLA game. Hope it jumpstarts Coach Scott Satterfield
like that
at UC.
Darren's on to something. You remember that UCLA game?
It was amazing. That was Desmond Ritter's coming out party, if I'm not mistaken.
Exactly. Yeah. That's where that kid showed he had a freaking bulldog winner mentality, man. That was very exciting. What a game.
Last thing we need to get to, FC Cincinnati. They dropped one on Sunday, 1-0 against New York City Football Club. 1-0 is not great.
I kept opening my mouth and saying they would win that game. I thought they would. But they were on a good roll, and, Coach didn't like the first half, but they'll be fine. But it's really interesting, this it's close stuff. They got a home match coming up. Who they have? Boston coming up on Saturday, and then it's like 3 straight road games, which is interesting. And one of them against Columbus. 2 are very winnable, but Columbus is tough. 1 loss on the season right now.
After Austin, they got Toronto, then Columbus, then Atlanta, all on the road.
Yeah, and all three of those are on the road.
Yep.
Which is an interesting little stretch for them with 2 winnables. Obviously, Columbus could go either way, but Columbus is playing really tough, and that's up there. But yeah, this next month will tell a little bit more about them. But I like where they're at.
Don't get blanked again, and I won't have anything to say about scoring issues. But in the table, in the table, they're now 11-7-1, puts them in third, tied for second, I guess, on points.
Yeah, tied on points, but goal differential because of what you just mentioned, lack of goals, lack of scoring has been an issue.
But Columbus leads the way at 24 points, and Philly and Cincinnati are tied at 22. So
I still feel like when Cincinnati has all their frontline players available, they're going to be tough.
I sure hope so, because I have been very critical already about them scoring goals.
Did you bet on them Saturday or Sunday?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Good.
Not UC related. Ohio related. Halliburton hits a game-winning 3. Cavs down 0-2, heading to Indiana.
Whoa.
Cavs are up 20, and the Pacers walked them down. Halliburton hits a step-back 3. These playoffs have been incredible.
I hope Halliburton's dad stayed off the floor.
He's not allowed to game for a while.
I know. That was ridiculous.
They told his ass to stay home.
God bless the Greek freak for handling that so well.
So you want to hear a Tyrese Halliburton story?
What's that?
It pretty benign, but Larry Davis, he was an under-recruited kid. Larry Davis was the king of under-recruited guys. Like, he looked literally under every stone to find guys. Told me to go watch him. Iowa State, which is where he ended up, right? And he went to Iowa State. They had been on him for a while because they were another school that was really good at unearthing those diamond in the rough guys. Told me to go watch him. I called LD after I watched him, was like, how's nobody recruiting this guy? Like, this doesn't make any sense. This dude is a baller. And sure enough, went to Iowa State, was fantastic. And now he's the most overrated player in the NBA. I believe he took that personally.
Yeah.
That was the old Michael Jordan, and I took that personally.
Yeah.
Because he has been nuts.
Right.
His playoffs have been great.
The most overrated player in the NBA plays for the Boston Celtics, but that's a different conversation for a different day.
Jaylen Brown?
No. George, anything going on in high school baseball?
No, playoffs start in a couple weeks. Moeller Mason still 1-2 in Ohio in the poll. Lakota West is 12th. Oak Hill's up to number 15. That's been a nice little West Side surprise. Harrison is 5th in Division II in Ohio. So the Wildcats are having a hell of a baseball season. I think they have 1 loss. I want to say Moeller and Mason each have 2 losses. And in Kentucky, pretty much status quo. Ryle's the top-ranked RPI team over here in Northern Kentucky, 15th in the state. And, both state tournaments will get going here in a couple of weeks. They're winding down the regular season.
Thanks. Well, we'll see what happens when they get down to these state tournaments and what have you, and see if we can't get a champion or two in this.
Yeah, that day they have the regional. That weekend they have the regional semis, and I didn't look to see the bracket if they're doing that at UC again, but they usually do it there, and that is such a cool weekend of high school baseball in Cincinnati, having those regional semis and finals there at UC in that stadium is great venue for it. Usually they're damn good games. And if you want to see good high school baseball, gun for that weekend to go see those teams play, because you're probably out of those 4 teams, you're probably looking at several guys that will end up in someone's minor league system, if not better.
All right. Well, you got anything else for tonight, George?
No, all has been well, man. I hope you have a good week. And let Chad know that if you guys are doing that thing next week, then I'll be back in 2.
All right. So we may sit next week out. We will, of course, let you know if anything with that changes, but it sounds like 11 hours might be enough for us.
I would think so. I don't know how you do it.
It's tough. In any case, that's going to wrap it up here, though, for George in the Jungle. Be sure to check out Remington Tavern because they support us. But Remington Tavern can be found at 8892 Glendale Milford Road, 45140, where they have their daily happy hour from 3 to 7 p.m., $5 bourbon whiskey Wednesdays, bottle cap bonanza Thursdays from 7 to 9 p.m. You can find them on Instagram at RemyTavCincy or follow them on Facebook. Be sure to grab an ice cold Cincy Light while you're there on tap because it's delicious. But for George Vogel, I'm Aaron Smith. We'll be back here in 2 weeks at 9 o'clock to do what we do and discuss all of your Cincinnati sports.
Thank you, Aaron.